coverage.
It's the penalty of marijuana from a minor misdemeanor to a misdemeanor of the third degree, and second offense misdemeanor of the first degree. As a result of that, the report has come back, 6-month report from the police department relating to that, and members of council have a copy of that report in front of them. I have to say that it's very favorable relative to the impact that we were hoping to get as a result of this new ordinance. What strikes me more than anything else is we got, as a result of this ordinance, there were 37 guns so far. As a result, 37 guns have been taken off the streets. Also, as a result of this ordinance, 15,894 grams of marijuana have been taken off the streets, which amounts to about 35 pounds of marijuana. 29 grams of heroin. Now, for anybody who knows heroin, the weight of heroin, that's an awful lot of heroin that has been taken off the streets of Cincinnati. 193 grams of cocaine, and 360 grams, 193 grams of powdered cocaine, and 360 grams of crack cocaine. As a result of a minor arrest for marijuana, these are the things that have occurred. Now, I say that I'm very impressed with this report simply because the way you get to the big fish, so to speak, those that are driving the homicides in our cities and all of the violent crime, the way you get to them is by way of these smaller violations. Marijuana in particular is one avenue by which you get to the much larger fish, so to speak. And it's showing in this report. Now, prior to the arrest, prior to the change in the ordinance, the law department reported that they spent about $17,800 on private attorneys defending city ordinances, and I'm assuming this means marijuana ordinances. Okay, I'm assuming that's what that means. However, as of April 2006 through September of 2006, under the new marijuana ordinance, the department has spent $45,600, a net increase of approximately $27,800. However, that increase, I think the outcomes of the marijuana arrest far outweigh the increase in the cost, especially when you're talking about 37 guns off the streets and the other things that I mentioned. Also, I know there was some concerns from the community about we're going to be arresting folks and putting them in jail for 6 months for the marijuana ordinance because of the increase in the penalty. Well, as a result of this report, not one individual has, I'll read it as it states this: number of first-degree misdemeanor convictions resulting from the cumulative effects of the ordinance, 0. In other words, nobody's sitting in jail for 6 months as a result of this ordinance. The exact opposite has occurred. A lot of individuals are pleading to a much more serious charge, and the marijuana arrest is dismissed in the courts as a result of a plea bargain for a much more serious charge. Because in most of these cases, you may get marijuana along with some heroin or some crack cocaine, or there may be some other Part 1 violation or even Part 2 violation. And as a result of a plea bargain, they will plead out. So we're getting the effects that were intended as it relates to this marijuana ordinance. And I hope the council will continue to support this effort, and hopefully we will not consider rescinding this ordinance in the next 6 months.
Mr. Chair, a couple comments and just one question for the law department. I want to give you your due. Chairman Thomas was the council member who brought forward this change. He took some grief for it. It was at the request of the police department and the law department as a enhanced crime-fighting tool, just as the way he described. And the council supported it. Obviously, there were some concerns in terms of how it would be implemented, what the impact would be. A couple of us council members got together and had the motion saying, well, why don't we make it we originally changed the ordinance to say it would be for a one-year period, so we'd have to come back and renew it, but then we'd also ask for this report to determine what the impact was at 6 months and then again at a year. And I would say this was the report that we have. I want to thank the administration, particularly Lieutenant Colonel DeMasi and the city manager. This is the kind of data that helps us determine whether or not a new law is effective or not. So we're not just throwing something out there and then just, whatever feedback we get back, and if we get none, and we're just all using our own biases or our own guesstimates on how something's working. We actually have some data tells us how it's working. And then when we go to determine as a council whether or not we're going to renew the ordinance next April, at that point we'll have an updated annual report, and there'll be the opportunity for the public to weigh in, but we can measure the public input with data. And that's why I'm glad the council approved the motion, and again, I thank you for the report. One just brief question that I have, it identifies in the report the increase in defending city ordinance cases, and it states from April of 06 to 2006, the law department has spent $45,600 defending city ordinance cases for an increase of $27,800. The total increased amount cannot be directly attributed to Cincinnati Municipal Code 910-23, the increased marijuana change. But that is the only ordinance that enhanced existing criminal penalties during the time frame under review. Is it possible that some of those additional costs are because the police arrests are up, there's potentially a focus, Operation Vortex or other crime-fighting strategies that have resulted in increased costs prosecuting cases of existing ordinance in 06 over the 05 timeframe?
That is possible. We can certainly try to break down exactly where the costs arose and pinpoint the number of violations of the marijuana ordinance versus the other types of city ordinances that were defended under these contractual arrangements.
Mr. Chair, for me, I think this report is fine for the 6 month, so I'm not going to ask you to go back and review it. I would just say when we come back a year, in another 6 months for the year review, I think it would be helpful because I think this council's, for instance, put a lot of attention on blight, health violations, lead, as Chairman Monzel has done in the Health Committee. And I would expect that those are existing ordinances, but maybe as a result of increased attention, I think we've done some things in the budget in terms of these items that possibly you're spending more prosecuting existing ordinances because of increased attention. And I wouldn't want it just to be presumed that the additional cost is because this is the only new municipal ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the committee? Without any objections, then I will put item number 1 on for as far as approve and file. Thank you. You all have heard much about in my committee about this whole issue of crime and how we should be approaching this issue. And each time I have a committee meeting, I try to bring in folks that I think give us a quick overview, and we'll move forward from there. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of City Council. We've been asked to kind of give a background on the Cincinnati Human Relations Commission. The Human